Just about every morning, in just about every city and town across this great land, there are those who head to work early and get home late. They're the independent dealers of North America. Their priorities come from Main Street, not Wall Street. They work in showrooms and warehouses, not glass buildings or ivory towers. Their customers have names, not numbers, and their family's name might even be on the building. They're independents. They provide jobs, invest in their communities, pay taxes, and serve their neighbors. They're independents. With hard work, good judgment, and a little help from above, they're able to carve a living out of a storefront, some inventory, and their most valuable assets, their customers. They're independents. There was a time not that long ago when the MBAs, the consultants, and even a few suppliers had written them off. Surely the corporate giants with their massive resources and billions in sales would snuff out the independent flame. But those guys don't make the rules. Customers do. Now it's becoming clear. There's a change in the air. A realization that customers are demanding more. Who can deliver quality? Where did service and advice go? What happened to trust? Well, it's been right here all along. In every delivery and every handshake at each of the thousands of independent dealers of the Nationwide Marketing Group and its divisions. Working together to buy better, sell smarter, and compete tougher. So think outside the big box. Think independent and save. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
After practicing law, Raymond Berg fought crime.
You have the right to an attorney.
As a hard-boiled detective on wheels.
Ain't it the truth?
His name is Ironside.
Perhaps you wouldn't mind saying it again.
His name is Ironside.
All right, now you've said it.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Today, we're going to be talking about the Armenian crisis that's taking place in Syria right now. Thousands are being displaced from their homes. Their churches are being desecrated. We'll have a live guest in the studio and on the telephone from Washington, D.C. Stay tuned. Very serious topic here on Connect with me on MeTV Fresno today. It involves the Armenian community right here in the Central Valley. They are on edge today and worried and outraged that some of their family members and some of their friends have been uprooted. They have been forced out of their homes in northern Syria, and some of the churches there have been desecrated. Let's go to the map and I'll show you exactly what I am talking about. Kasab in northern Syria is where some 6,000 or up to 6,000 Armenians were forced to flee their homes after they were looted, and their churches, as I said, totally desecrated. The onslaught came just across the northern border of Turkey by foreign fighters affiliated with Al-Qaeda and another terrorist group. In the meantime, back here in Fresno is where thousands and thousands of Armenians call home, and on Sunday, more than 200 parishioners packed Holy Trinity Armenian Apostolic Church for a service that included prayers for family members affected by the violence taking place in Syria. Also during the service, some harsh words for the Turkish government and the terrorists by the Reverend. They are trying to wipe out whatever is Armenian, he said, quote, end quote. But he went on to say that God will not let them win. God is with us, believe me. He also urged people to pray and called for U.S. officials to speak out and to help out financially. In fact, on Sunday, about $4,800 was collected for those families who were displaced in Kasab. Unfortunately, this coincides with the recent 99th anniversary of the Armenian genocide that took place on April 24th, still not recognized by the U.S. government. This service taking place at the Holy Trinity Apostolic Church in Fresno on Sunday, a beautiful service to honor those who had to flee their homes. Live in our studio right now is Abraham Saghdejian, who has relatives in Syria. And on the telephone from Washington, D.C. is Aram Hamparian, the executive director of the Armenian National Committee of America. They'll both join us here, one by telephone from D.C., one in the studio. We'll talk about this Armenian crisis taking place right near the Turkish border, right near Turkey in Syria, that's taken place and forced many to flee their homes. We'll talk about that subject. No phone calls on this day on Connect with Me. We're back with our program in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer. And now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Back here on the set of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, and glad to have here in the studio now is Abraham Saghdejian. Good to see you, Abraham. Nice to see you, and good morning.
Good morning,
on the telephone from Washington, D.C., we'll put his picture up on the screen, Aram Hamparian. He is the executive director of the Armenian National Committee of America. Are you there, Aram?
Yes, sir, John. Thanks so much for having me on and for shedding light on this important subject.
Hey, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, while you're on the telephone right there, right now, let me ask you, how large an area is Kasab that we're talking about in Syria? It's right near the border in northern Syria near Turkey. How big an area are we talking about now?
It's essentially, it's a mid-sized town of several thousand people. It's literally right on the border with Turkey, right near the Mediterranean. It's actually a very beautiful area. It's been home to Armenians for hundreds of years, but especially home for refugees from the Armenian genocide of 1915. But it's not a large city. It's not a small village. It's a good mid-sized town.
So you said it's the home of the Armenian genocide in 1915. Explain that a little bit, because that whole area has a history, as we just celebrated, of course, the 99th anniversary on April the 24th of the Armenian genocide.
Sure. First of all, the Fresno is home to many Armenians who fled the genocide back in 1915, 1920, 1930, and others who've come in the years since. As the genocide took place, a large portion of it took place in the form of these forced marches, these deportations into the desert, into the Syrian desert. Armenians were pushed out of what's now Turkey, south into the desert. Many, many, many died along the way. That was the intention of the Turkish government. Along the way, some who survived stayed in Kasab and Aleppo and Syria and other places along the way. So the community there is an old community, but that was increased by the numbers of refugees who fled the genocide. A genocide, sadly, that is still denied by Turkey, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, the U.S. government defers to Turkey and refuses to recognize this crime.
Right. Let me turn to our studio guest now, Abraham Saghdejian. Abraham, you have relatives there?
Yes.
How many?
I have.
And what area? Is it right in Kasab?
Kasab and Kaladuran.
Kaladuran is where?
Kaladuran is the Kasab is a town, city, and then there is about 7 other villages surrounding the main town, Kasab town. So it's not only one area.
How many relatives do you have there?
I have many, many dozens of relatives.
Have you spoken to them?
Yes, I speak to them every morning, actually.
And how are they doing?
They're in Latakia right now. They're like refugees, scattered the church and schools over there, and they're being treated for food and shelter by the Red Cross and the Armenian Relief Society and Arab Red Cross.
Roughly how many were driven from their homes, from what you can gather, and were all of your relatives driven from their homes?
Yes, it's about 2,000 people, mostly Armenians.
Okay.
They left early in the morning. They were lucky that the organizations were alert, and they helped out the people very organized way to withdraw towards Latakia, which was the safest, of course.
Now you said that they fled in the morning. How did they know that the terrorists were coming?
They knew because the terrorists attacked one village, and in that village there is a Syrian post, military post, police scouting post, right at the border, and there is the Armenian village in that border line, very close to the line. So they start shooting over there and attacking the Syrian post, military post. So when this thing went on, right away people start calling each other that there is something very big is happening. So you better start leaving. So they all left towards a village called Ekizoluh. And they waited over there. They thought this is something small. They would come back to their homes. Because most of them, they left with their pajamas on. They didn't take anything. They didn't take
possessions.
No possessions, no passport, no money, no jewelry, nothing.
And where are they now? The ones who fled their homes, where are they?
They're in Latakia.
Okay, that's where they are.
Yeah.
They're like refugees now.
They're refugees. They're just sleeping on the floor.
Is the Red Cross helping out?
Yes, Red Cross is helping out for food and shelter and clothing and things like that. They're desperate. I talk to my cousin every morning. He says, there is no rich or poor left. Everything is gone. The village, because those people came in and they start looting and destroying and
right. Aram, you want to jump in here anytime. Go ahead. Sure. You're listening to this conversation. Anything you want to add to this?
Well, absolutely. First, let me say that Apo is a great example of an Armenian who's really given back to the community, and he's been a great citizen in Fresno. He makes us all proud. He's also a national leader on Armenian issues. So you know him as a Fresno resident, but we know him as a national leader on Armenian issues. We did, John, take this issue to our State Department, and we met with the State Department in Washington, and we were happy that they did condemn the attack on the Armenians, but where we were disappointed was that they did not criticize Turkey's role in this. And if you know the geography of that region, it's simply impossible for an attack to have come from the direction it came without Turkey's awareness or we think cooperation. The people who engaged in the attack are some of the most extreme elements in the Syrian conflict, very intolerant toward religious freedom and freedom of faith. We see a very strong Turkish hand in this, and as this is like, John, it's so hard to imagine this could happen, but to confirm our suspicions, which are pretty well grounded anyway, there was in Turkey a YouTube video released of the Turkish foreign minister speaking with military commanders planning a military intervention in Syria. The Turkish prime minister threw a fit, and he banned YouTube in all of Turkey, but he never denied that the video was real, and the audio tape on the YouTube video was real. So here we have evidence that the Turkish government is planning to intervene in Syria. Very soon thereafter, there is an intervention coming from the direction of Turkey. We see this as a Turkish effort to wipe out the last indigenous Armenian village on the territory of the Ottoman Empire. It's the last place where Armenians survived in that space, and now there's no Armenians left there.
This YouTube video, Aram, that was banned, this pretty much confirms that Turkey had a hand in this.
It certainly says, they say like in crime, you need a motive, a weapon, and an opportunity. This established the motive. They were planning on doing it. The weapon, there's no shortage of weapons in Turkey. It's a very overarmed country. And the opportunity was in the cover of war. they slipped some guys across the border and essentially, conducted a continuation of their anti-Armenian policy.
Quickly, we got to go to break. I want you to hang on the phone. Don't hang up. But just quickly, how far is Kasab from the border of Turkey?
Apo, you know that.
It's right there. It's
how many
touching.
miles?
There is the line right there. You can see 100 yards away.
Yeah.
You can see 100 yards away is Turkey.
So it's not a matter of miles. It's less.
Oh, yeah.
It's less than that.
Some area it's yards. Like the place that they started fighting, that's Sevahpur in Armenian.
So it's within a few hundred yards.
Few hundred yards. That's where the border is.
Okay, all right. We are talking to Abraham Saghdejian and Aram Hamparian. He is live on the telephone from D.C. We're talking about the Armenian crisis, people that were forced to flee their homes, churches desecrated in northern Syria. Back with our program here on Connect with Me in just a moment.
Now, why don't you tell us the whole story right from the beginning? All right, from the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
You any idea who the other man was?
My partner's Bill Gannon.
Program?
We got just one big question.
Yeah.
When?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Back here on the program, Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, talking about the Syrian crisis there involving the Armenians and the attack by an element of Al-Qaeda just recently forcing these people from their homes and desecrating the churches. In our studios, Abraham Saghdejian. Aram Hamparian, the executive director of the Armenian National Committee, is on the telephone in Washington, D.C. Let me ask you, first of all, Aram, why isn't the Syrian government getting involved in this to try to protect the Armenians? Why aren't they involved?
I think that they don't have control of the entire territory, so I think part of it's just beyond their control. I think they are mindful, though, that this represented one of the biggest advances by the rebels into the coast. So my guess is if they will push back against these attacks, that's my sense. Yeah, for sure. I think we can expect a sort of a pushback from the government side. And sadly, the Armenians get stuck in the middle of this. They're combatants, on all sides. They have not respected any of the traditional rules of war, exempting civilian areas or not targeting minorities. So Armenians have been stuck in the middle of a horrific conflict.
I mentioned...
Not of their making at all.
Okay, I mentioned Al-Qaeda. What other terrorist groups can you name that were involved in this besides Al-Qaeda?
Well, there's a group called Al-Nusra, which is considered, even by some of the Al-Qaeda operatives, to be even more extreme. And they have very, very different vision of religious freedom and freedom of faith and tolerance. And I don't believe that they see a place for Christian minorities in Syria, and I think they've said that openly, and they've acted upon it. And this is, I think, one more manifestation of that kind of hatred and intolerance. And that's the fact that what is terrible that's terrible enough as it is. But then you have, why then is Turkey, a NATO ally, supporting this radical, hateful, anti-Christian organization. 10 years ago, we might have talked in Washington about why is Turkey not in the European Union. Now I think we have to start asking ourselves, why is Turkey still in NATO? The shared values are not there, and increasingly we're not seeing the shared interests either.
Yeah, exactly what next question I was going to ask you, but since you already answered it, I'll move on. Is this just a continued action of aggression against Armenians by the Turkish government?
And sadly, it's true. The policy that started in 1915 to wipe out the Armenians was continued for 9 decades by the denial of that crime. And now we see, when the opportunity has arisen, that Turkey has played a role in the destruction of the last vestige of Armenians on our historic homeland. That's really that's why it's such a sensitive point for Armenians. It's Kesab, but more than Kesab, it's all that Kesab symbolizes, and this relentless Turkish push to just erase the Armenian presence in that part of the world. It's really.
So why doesn't the U.S. government get involved? I mean, Turkey is a NATO ally.
Yeah, no, you would think that would give us more leverage, but it seems that there's, I would describe it as cowardice on the part of U.S. policymakers who fear the least offense. They fear any offense against the Turkish government. The Turkish government's, off the rails, becoming less democratic, more intolerant, but the U.S. government is very reluctant to in any way challenge Turkey on these issues, which shows great weakness. I mean, it really is failing. And thank God we have good friends in Congress, including many from the Central Valley, who support us on these issues.
Okay. I want to get to Abraham here. What can people here do here in the Central Valley to help out the cause? The refugees that are now stuck, they're receiving help, of course, from the Red Cross, but they've been forced from their homes. Churches have been desecrated. What can people do?
First of all, they stop only praying. Praying is good to do, but it's not enough. I think the refugees need money should be flowing over there to help out on all their needs for home and food and shelter and clothing and so on.
And we put up on the screen, write your officials or donate online. And when you say write to your officials, I'm assuming, Aram, that means write to your representatives in Congress. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We think that the Congress should have an investigation as to why is a NATO ally helping an Al-Qaeda-linked group that's attacking Christians.
Right.
How is that possible?
Now, you can also mail your donations to the Syrian Armenian National Relief Fund, P.O. Box 626, Fresno, California, 93719. You can help out in so many different ways, but mainly this way here. Apparently, during a church service here in Fresno, they raised about $4,800 on Sunday.
Yes.
Is there more coming in from different areas of the Central Valley?
It should. Hopefully, as people hear about the process and hear about the address and the organization that's established for that purpose only, hopefully they will respond like they have done in the past.
Aram, besides money, can they send clothing? Can they send blankets? Can they send toiletries, like toothpaste, shampoo, whatever the case may be, much like we would send our military soldiers overseas?
Sure. I think actually funding is easier because just the cost of transporting those materials is exorbitant, and then even the ability to get them into the right hands is very difficult. So very often it's donations that would be given as on a weekly basis to a given family to cover their food or cover their medicine needs. I think dollars are probably the most valuable way to help right now. And as things stabilize, then there'll be opportunities to provide the materials. So I think right now we're looking for folks to give generously to the relief efforts, and that's pretty much, I think, the Syrian Armenian Relief Fund, I think, is the best.
Aram, we mentioned the Armenians have been forced from their homes, the churches have been desecrated. What other kind of damage in Kesab has gone on? Is the entire area just pretty much decimated?
Well, I think what's happened a lot is there's been a lot of looting of homes. So these people left their homes with nothing, on no notice, And it's our understanding that this is anecdotal. We don't have, this hasn't been studied very carefully, but that that some of the militants have just gone into homes and taken whatever they wanted. Some of it has, we understand, has been crossed the border back into Turkey. And in fact, many of the people who were wounded in the initial conflict, we understand, were taken back to Turkey to be treated. So there's definitely a Turkey connection here, and just like during the genocide, John, there's a financial benefit to looting the property of these victimized Armenians.
All right, we have about a minute left. I want you to tell us, Aram, can these refugees from the Armenian community, can they return to their homes in Kesab? And if they do, what kind of security will they have?
That's a tough question. Our hope is that there'll be a return to stability in the region, especially in the Latakia Kesab area, and that these folks will be able to go back to their homes. It would be a terrible tragedy if this marked the end of the Armenian presence in that part of the world. So we're working very hard for that, very, very hard to see these folks go home.
All right, I want to put up on the screen one more time the relief efforts, where you can send your donations, right to your congressman, right to your senators, right to the President of the United States. Anybody, Aram, that they can write to at the State Department? You mentioned the State Department at the beginning of the program. Can they write to somebody there?
Usually the State Department is pretty guarded about outside communications. They tend to try to insulate themselves from the public. So the best, they could write, if they have things they'd like to communicate to the State Department, they could send a note here to me personally at aram at anca.org, and I'd be glad to convey those concerns.
All right. Abraham, do you want to add anything before we go? We have 1 minute left.
It's mostly agricultural area. Hopefully the trees and so on are all intact. And as the people come back, they will rebuild their homes, and they will continue farming for their future lives.
And fortunately, thank God, from the reports that we've gotten, no casualties.
No casualty, that's the best part. The rest we don't know yet. Really, when there is a fighting going on in the village itself, I'm sure there will be lots of destruction. And
well, we pray that they can return to their homes safely, and they deserve the security and peace to live there in Kesab. Abraham Saghdejian, thank you very much. Come back again. You're welcome anytime. Aram Hamparian, the Executive Director of the Armenian National Committee in Washington, D.C. on the phone. Thank you, Aram.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the great work that you're doing.
Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Know how busy you are. That's going to do it for us today here on Connect with Me. You can watch this show on YouTube. Check it out. Back with another edition of this program tomorrow on MeTV Fresno.
Just about every morning, in just about every city and town across this great land, there are those who head to work early and get home late. They're the independent dealers of North America. Their priorities come from Main Street, not Wall Street. They work in showrooms and warehouses, not glass buildings or ivory towers. Their customers have names, not numbers, and their family's name might even be on the building. Their independence. They provide jobs, invest in their communities, pay taxes, and serve their neighbors. Their independence. With hard work, good judgment, and a little help from above, they're able to carve a living out of a storefront, some inventory, and their most valuable assets, their customers. Their independence. There was a time not that long ago when the MBAs, the consultants, and even a few suppliers had written them off. Surely the corporate giants with their massive resources and billions in sales would snuff out the independent flame. But those guys don't make the rules. Customers do. Now it's becoming clear. There's a change in the air. A realization that customers are demanding more. Who can deliver quality? Where did service and advice go? What happened to trust? Well, it's been right here all along. In every delivery and every handshake at each of the thousands of independent dealers of the Nationwide Marketing Group and its divisions. Working together to buy better, sell smarter, and compete tougher. So think outside the big box. Think independent and save.
Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.